All right. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about the project analysis and the budget tab overview on projects. This is a really good way to get full visibility of the profitability, the performance, and various financials on each individual project. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. I'm going to break this down section by section. I have a project open here. And on the left-hand side, I have my general project-related information, the name, location, pipeline, stage, assignees, etc. You can see all the way down here, the address. This is not an insurance job, so I don't have any of that information here or NITs. This does have a signed quote. And so in my budget tab, I have contract value, revenue, which we'll cover all of these in detail in just a moment, cost, commissions, service tax, gross profit, gross margin, and then my cost line items at the bottom here. So my contract value is going to be the sum of all of the contracts or the quotes that have a signature on this project. So if Jamie Tanner has more than one signed quote for some reason, then that would actually show a higher number here. So I have one quote for $39,396.04. And my revenue is actually coming from the total payments collected to date. I opted for a $5,000 deposit for this work. And because there were $28 in merchant fees paid via ACH, my revenue is going to show $4,972. If there were any sort of refund, chargeback, ACH return, any of these things, you're going to see these costs listed here so that we have the accurate revenue number. We're only going to consider revenue in this view based on what you've collected on this work. It's nice because I can always see this gap here. My contract value is $39,396. I clearly haven't collected all of the money related to this quote just yet, so I want to make sure that I see that difference right up here at the top. The cost is your actual incurred costs. I have material and labor, and these are going to be based off of what's in the quote and then what I list at the bottom here. I can edit this labor item. I can update the cost right here. Maybe it ended up costing me much more than I thought. And now my labor item has an 8.9% difference. This is in the yellow because it's a negative difference. So I planned $12,860 and actually have spent so far $14,000. I could add that as a separate cost line item as well. So, okay, let's do the material. Let's say that I need more nails for $100 more. And this is a material. These cost item types are configured in your company settings. We can go over that towards the end of the call if you'd like. I'll wait for questions, but you can actually create as many categories there as you'd like to see. It also helps separate out work orders and material orders later. I added this $100 material to this job. I can upload a receipt as well. But I can also send this over to QuickBooks if I'd like. I kind of glazed over that, but you can send that to QuickBooks as well. 0.8% difference here. So planned versus actual, there was a $100 difference. Planned is always going to be what was the plan when you signed the quote. Our goal here is always to make sure that we're quoting correctly so that you're not raising money. And this will help you get better and better and more dialed in to what your quotes need to look like to make the most money on the other side. Okay, so that's a little bit about costs. We also have your commissions section here. Commissions are based on each user and can be updated right here on the project. So if for some reason I want to update the commission for this project, I can do it. But Emily Traxler, that's me, the assignee, my commission type is commission one, and commission one gives me $994.40. And if I want to change that to Taylor's commission type, is what I called it, I could also change the assigned user. Every single user can have their own commission type that automatically populates. So one will automatically populate to the project that's assigned to them, and then it can be updated later. So that changed my commission to $0. So that's not great. I'm going to go back to commission one so that we could see a number here that's meaningful. Um, so the total job commission is $994. Job profit from commission. There is a formula here that helps get to this number. And this is going to be considered when you're looking at how much money you're making on this work. There's no taxes on this job, but you can review taxes if there are, and also add service taxes and my gross profit. So right now I'm in the negative, plan versus actual. And this is because we haven't collected very much money and our costs are quite high. So we're going to keep watch over this number. And ideally, this is in what we call the green whenever we get to the end of the job. This is an active, these are active numbers. So one thing that you want to remember is that these numbers are changing as the work progresses. There are other ways to see uh, multiple jobs at once, how your profitability is looking as a business. There are reports and dashboards for that. This is on a per project basis. It helps you dial into how each sales rep is doing from a quoting perspective. How is production doing? Getting the job done, material labor being efficient. Um, we want to show you planned, actual, and those variances in between so that you have a good idea of how all this is working together. Um, okay, let's go back over the colors really quick. So gray is going to be just whatever's happening before the job is closed. We're not worried too much about this 487% because this job isn't closed yet. Green is at or under budget, and then yellow is over budget. So those are the color indicators there um, under the cost category. So let's add another cost. Again, just for example's sake, we want to have maybe some more labor. Let's do window labor. Maybe we decided to do some windows. So we added $1,000 there on our cost, and this is going to update here, window labor, and added this new labor subcategory that we talked about, and the cost type is what we're calling it here. It doesn't have a little gray bubble. So this is because there was no planned cost for window labor, but we have an actual cost here that I input for $1,000. So there was no planned cost, but there is an actual. And so we're not seeing a little bubble here like we do with the labor and material that we added cost to later. I'm going to pause. I want to see if we have any questions. Okay, does everyone using our payment processing understand these different fees here and how that's going to impact your actual revenue? The gross revenue, merchant, refunds, chargebacks, ACH, net revenue. Okay. Okay, so let me just quickly touch on that then. So your merchant fees, that's the total of the fees that are being deducted from the payment being made. A refund is when a customer refunds. A chargeback is going to happen when the card charge is actually disputed by your customer. There are fees for that, but you can go into our system and actually dispute that chargeback. ACH returns are just failed or rejected ACH. So sometimes that means that somebody has a limit in their checking account that they're unaware of, so the bank immediately rejects it. Or sometimes it is because there's no money in the account or not enough money in the account. And so there are return fees, and those will be totaled here for your reference. And then on net revenue, that final total after all of the above deductions. I have seen situations where there's multiple things happening here because customers having a little trouble with the bank. So it's good to understand what should those mean. Checking your Q&A too. Okay, so two of the things that we peeled back here were commissions and costs. And I just want to quickly point you to where you would need to go in order to create a new commission profile type or to create a new cost category so that you can keep track of how these things are being bid. Oh, before I do, let's take a look at a quote. Let's pretend that we're quoting. Very easy. We're not going over the budget planner today, but this budget planner is also incredibly helpful for before you save and send this quote. Go ahead and take a look here. How are your costs looking? What is the service tax estimate, commission estimate? All of these things listed are valuable for while you're setting up this quote. Make sure that later you have set the appropriate pricing so that you're not losing money in the end. Okay. Um, let's hop over to our settings. We're going to actually go to manage team. And this is where I can set my commission profiles. I can add as many as I'd like. And then on each team member, I can choose what their commission profile is. So every time I create a quote, a project that is assigned to me as the sales rep, it's going to populate commission one. I can have these other commission types listed for if I want to change it on the project level for some reason. And then the other one that we touched on was in company settings. And that is going to be looking at our price list and these types. So these types are where I got those cost categories at the very bottom. And I added gutter labor and window labor, and I can add as many cost categories as I would like. And then I can track those costs. If you want to track lunch, track lunch. Just keep it all here in your cost categories so that everything is organized and you can see it in your budget planner later. So back to my budget planner, I just opened the project details for this project for Jamie Tanner and took a look at the budget, which is this last little bubble here on the right. Let me just double check. Again, for Q&A, everybody's quiet today, but we do have a big group, so I want to give you some time. Let me see if I'm forgetting or missing something. I don't think so. We've done commissions, service tax, but QuickBooks integration. If you're connected to QuickBooks Online, when you're creating these costs, you can submit these things over to your QuickBooks as bill or expense. So when you're adding a cost, you have that option. My demo account is not connected. Should have done that before this call, but uh, you can connect these things to QuickBooks and send those bills and expenses over as well so that everything is in alignment in both systems. And then a few dashboards to be aware of that are impacted by this budgeting tab. You can see certain information on our sales, cash flow, and profitability reports. And I think that there are going to be some separate office hours for those reports. So if we don't have any questions about those today, I won't dive in. But all of our dashboards are listed over here in the dashboard section where you can find overview. And the ones that I mentioned, production, profitability, and cash flow. So I see here on my profitability report, I have Jamie Tanner and where we're at right now, gray. job's not done, right? So, okay, team. Thanks again. We'll post this on YouTube later. Bye.